Onstead, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance first before I lead our statement. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our council member and veteran, Dennis Schilling. I have my flag up too.
Sorry about that. My printer was making noise. All right, sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll read our statement. Good evening. We greatly appreciate our staff, council, and residents adapting to our teleconference format due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tonight's meeting will be held under Minnesota State Statute 13D.021 that permits a public body to hold a meeting via telephone or other electronic means due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For members of the public, the meeting is being live streamed on the City of Wyoming YouTube page. The Wyoming City Council meeting will be recorded as part of the public record. After each agenda item is read and staff gives a report on that agenda item, I will call upon each council member individually if they have any questions on that particular item. If you wish to make a motion or second a motion, please state your name first. All votes on all items will be completed by a roll call to meet the standards for Minnesota State Statute 13D.021. We'll move on to open forum. Mr. Linwood, is there anybody for open forum?
Councilmember, we do not have anyone for open forum.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to approval of minutes. Number one, consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for May 4th, 2021. If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve?
Member Luger, so moved.
Member Luger makes that first. Do we have a second?
Member Onstead makes the second.
Member Onstead makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
Member Onstead.
Aye.
Member Yeager. Member Yeager, you're muted.
Sorry, aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. Moving on to the consent agenda. That would be number 2, 3, 4, and 5 on our consent agenda. Does anybody wish to pull an item on consent? Seeing that nobody wishes to pull an item on consent, can we have a motion to approve consent agenda 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Member Schilling, so moved.
Member Schilling makes that first. Do we have a second?
Member Onstead makes the second.
Member Onstead makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Yeager.
Aye.
Member Onstead.
Aye.
Member Luger. There you go.
I did it again. Aye. I had it and then it went away.
Member Schilling.
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. On to acknowledgement receipts of reports of officer boards, commissions, and department heads. Number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Does anybody wish to pull an item for further discussion? Seeing that nobody wishes to pull anything, we'll move on to communications, number 11 on our agenda. To consider a letter stating that the Wyoming City Council's opposition to encouragement of increased density in the single-family neighborhoods and to the planned use developments provision in the Senate House Omnibus Bill. Look at that, I said that. I know you guys are all proud of me, I can see it. All right, so that would be Senate File 969. Mr. Linwood, are you leading off on this one?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Mayor, members of council. This is a bill that we had talked about at a previous city council meeting in regards that would eliminate some of our local zoning control, especially within plan unit developments, and really be an engrossment on our control as discussed. This letter reflects that, and this is a similar version of the letter that I know other cities within Chisago County, other cities around the metro and around the state are going to be sending out. We did have an opportunity to meet with Senator Coran and Mr. Draheim, Senator Draheim, in regards to authoring this, and we're able to express some of our concerns with this this bill and some of the things that it would make difficult for cities like ours. So this is something that as we send an actual official letter, we want to run this by our city council and have an opportunity for feedback from you if there's anything in here that the council doesn't agree with. But essentially, this is a continuation of that discussion and just a letter not only to our, instead of just our local senator, that to the people that are on this actual bill, this conference committee. So that's where this is addressed to. With that, I can stand for any questions. And Mayor, you might have some additional input on this too, as you've been working on this item.
Yeah, this has taken up a lot of time. I can say right now that it's really, we do need to continue getting this letter out. They did adjourn, they did not come to conclusion, which means that it's really up to 3 people, whether that language stays in that bill or not. That would be Governor Walz, Senate Majority Leader Gazelka, and House Majority Leader, and I'm blanking on her name. They're the ones that will be working behind the scenes. I'm going to ask actually of our council to really reach out to Representative New and Senator Cran on, we just can't have this language in there. If anybody has any questions on what a PUD is and how it's going to affect us, just let us know on that. But we're all really worried about it. It's going to affect 853 cities and all the townships. So we're working really hard. And they need to know that this isn't good for our city. So I'll go around the room for questions. We'll start with Member Yeager.
No questions.
Member Onstad.
No questions.
Member Luger.
Questions.
And Member Schilling.
No questions. I like the letter that was drafted.
All right, thank you. So with that, we are going to need a motion to approve the letter stating the Wyoming City Council's opposition to encouragement of increased density in the single family neighborhoods in the plan unit development provision in the Senate Housing Omnibus Bill, Senate File 969. Do we have, I'll make the first motion to approve it. Do we have a second?
Member Luger will second.
Member Luger makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Onstad.
Aye.
Member Yeager.
Aye.
Member Luger.
Aye.
And Mayor Iverson is an aye. We'll keep everybody informed on where that goes. Number 12, this one is exciting. Wyoming Touch a Truck event 2021. I'm jumping up and down. So Ms. Dumas, are you going to be talking to us about this?
I am. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, staff wanted to provide a really exciting update regarding the Touch a Truck event that has become really a keystone event in Wyoming. And unfortunately, last year we weren't able to do it due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We did amend it to the Don't Touch a Truck event to keep the spirit alive, but we are excited to be bringing it back in all of its glory this year. On June 5th, we will be at the Wyoming Police Department. You'll see attached in your packet is a flyer that we'll be distributing through the city's social media and website, sharing details about the event for folks to get out and come out to enjoy the great partners that we have in our community and see some cool trucks.
Such a fun event.
Very fun.
All right. Let's see. Questions. Member Yeager.
No questions.
Member Onstad.
No questions.
Member Luger.
No questions. I think it's great that this is coming back.
Pretty excited, right? Member Schilling.
No questions, and I'll second Councilwoman Luger's statement. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's such a popular event, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just really gets everybody out. So that's exciting. I am going to ask one question. Are we going to have the helicopter come in? We've done that in the past.
We are doing our best. We've reached out to them. It's a little dependent on weather and also on what's going on, if it's required for service
Emergencies?
at that point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you for putting this on again. Very excited. Number 13, Lions Park Community Cleanup. Ms. Dumas, I think you're going to help us with that one too.
I am, thank you. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is an update from the Park Advisory Commission. At their last meeting, Deb Ashby from the Wyoming Lions Club requested a partnership with the Park Advisory Commission to do a community cleanup. And that is going to be happening this weekend on Saturday. In addition, the Northwoods Farmers are also going to be joining that initiative. So that is going to be in Lions Park on Saturday morning to do some cleanup of the park.
What time is that at, Ms. Dumas?
It starts at 9 a.m.
And can council members come up? And if so, do we need to notice that?
We already have noticed it since there are going to be multiple members of the Park Advisory Commission there, and City Council members are welcomed as well.
Great. And do we need to bring any tools, any rakes, any lawnmowers?
You do not. There
Okay,
will
good.
be bags at the event for folks to use. You might want to bring gloves to have, but there are supplies there.
Awesome. I can't wait to be there. I don't like cleaning my own yard, but I sure will help with the park. So, all right. I will just real quickly go around the room again. If anybody has any questions, Member Yeager,
No questions.
Member Onstad,
No question, but I do have a comment. I was up there this last week walking my dogs and picking up after them. And there's a family of 6 that were up there. And I asked them where they were from. They said they'd driven up from Columbus and preferred our park to their parks because they were quiet, they were clean, and they were just overall nice parks. They enjoyed and often come up to that park, and actually stated that about a year ago, they got married at that park. So I pointed out that we have now got the electrical there and the lights at night, and they were just tickled pink that that park is even getting better. So I'm hoping that they will come up there again after it's cleaned up, and hopefully they will like it that much more. Really proud of our city.
yeah, that's great. That's good feedback. Member Luker,
I have no questions.
okay, and Member Schilling.
No questions.
Awesome, great. All right, looking forward to that event. I will be there. So hopefully we'll have a lot of attendance from our council. All right, new business number 14, to consider and approve the 2020 City of Wyoming audit presentation, Bergen KDV. Mr. Linwood, are you starting off with us with this?
Mayor, members of the council, tonight, Aaron Dahl from Bergen KDV will be giving the council a presentation and taking some questions if there are any in regards to the 2020 audit. With that, I don't have much more, and I'll let Mr. Dahl take us away. I think you'll be able to share your screen, Mr. Dahl, and give that report to the council.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, council. I'll attempt to share my screen here quick. All right. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, thanks for having me here tonight. Thanks again for having us as auditors. As Rob mentioned, I'm Aaron Dahl with Bergen KDV, and I'll kind of walk you through our audit findings for the evening. All right. All right, so everybody seeing that okay on the first page? All right, so management is responsible for the financial statements. As auditors, we're responsible to express an opinion on the financial statements. For the year 2020, we did issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion we can give as auditors. So thanks to all the staff for all the hard work and time and effort provided to come with that unmodified opinion. As auditors, we are providing assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. In regard to the governmental auditing standards, we did have one material weakness noted in internal control. There was a material audit adjustment needed, so that just needed to be disclosed in the report. And I believe that related to kind of the cash and investments related to one of the conversion funds, Fund 901. So nothing of concern, just something that we had needed to note. Let's see, I don't know if this is coming up. All right, next we'll kind of jump into the communications letter. That's where I'll spend the majority of my time just kind of looking at the financial analysis for the city. So this first chart displays the revenues for the general fund. For the past 5 years, overall revenue in 2020 increased 1,317 from 2019. So a pretty steady year compared to the prior year. The largest increase was realized in intergovernmental revenue, which increased about 267,000, relating to the CARES funding that was received by the city during the year. That increase was offset by a decrease in taxes and special assessments of around 198,000. Related to the tax levy allocation for the general fund. It was spread out to different capital project portions, more so in 2020. And then license and permits also decreased by about 165,000. And that primarily related to the building activity for the year and related to that permit revenue that came in, which was down compared to 2019. On the expenditure side, it looks like overall expenditures in 2020 for the general fund decreased by about 344,000, or about 7.6% compared to the prior year. The largest decrease there was realized in capital outlay, which decreased 859,000. And that related to the capital equipment portions of the general fund being separated out in 2020 and placed into separate capital projects funds. So not exactly the best comparison between 2019 and 2020, but moving forward, those will continue to be separated. So it'll be a good standard to judge against in the future. The general government program increased 488,000 in expenditures, and that again related to spending some of that CARES funding related to the COVID-19 and other similar expenditures there. Public safety expenditures increased by about 42,000, and that had to do primarily related to safety equipment, training, and supplies for 2020. And all the other expenditure categories were pretty consistent compared to the prior year. From a standpoint of percentages between the programs, that remained fairly consistent. The main change between taxes, special assessments, and intergovernmental revenues based on what we touched on earlier, just with that CARES funding coming in, that kind of boosted the percentages for the intergovernmental revenue in 2020. Similarly, for the expenditure side, those were pretty much the same, again, with the capital outlay category showing the biggest variance, while those CIP funds came out of the general fund and into capital projects funds. So other than that, things looked pretty similar from 2019 to 2020. Moving on to the budget side for the general fund, revenue and expenditures were both budgeted at around 3.9 million. Actual revenue for the year came in at about 4.5 million. And actual expenditures came in at about 4.2 million. So on the revenue side, a variance of about 576,000 above what was budgeted. And on the expenditure side, about 297 over what was budgeted. And then there were net transfers out of about 578,000. And again, that related to the CIP funds coming out of the general fund. So kind of a one-time transfer out for those. Overall, fund balance decreased by about 240,000 at the end of the year. And again, that related primarily to those transfers, even though revenue kind of exceeded the expenditure side. From the revenue side, actual revenues of about 4.4 million came in about 576,000, or 14.8% above the budgeted revenue amount. The largest variance here again was that intergovernmental revenues, which were 631,000 over budget. Again, with that CARES funding not being anticipated at the beginning of the year when the budget was set. Licenses and permits were about 92,000 under budget, again related to that building permit revenue falling short of what was anticipated. And then the miscellaneous revenue category, which made up about 127,000 in 2020, exceeded its budgeted amount by about 42,000, and that primarily related to investment earnings coming in over budget. On the expenditure side, the actual expenditures were about 296,000 more than the budget, or about 7.6%. Again, the largest variance there related to the general government expenditures, which were about 405,000 over the budget due to those COVID-19 expenditures and the spending of the CARES money. Public Works was about 64,000 under budget due to expenditures kind of falling short of budget for part-time workers, and then some benefits and street maintenance materials coming in less than anticipated as well. And then public safety was 51,000 under budget due to looked like the building inspection costs being down with less building activity. So kind of both on the revenue and expenditure side, a little bit down in that building side. From a fund balance perspective, we have the past 5 years shown here. The unrestricted fund balance for the general fund at the end of 2020 was about 2.5 million, and that represented approximately 7 months of 2020 expenditures. The city's target general fund balance is to maintain an unrestricted fund balance of around not less than 55% of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures. And at the end of the year, the unrestricted fund balance represented 62.4% of the 2021 budgeted expenditures. So exceeding that fund balance policy threshold. So a good sign there. Next, we'll touch on tax capacity, the tax capacity rate and tax levy. So those are presented here for the past 5 years. Comparing 2016 through 2020, the tax capacity has increased about 2.1 million or 30.8%. The certified levy increased 161% or 161,000, sorry, or 4% over that same time frame. And as a result of that, the taxable tax capacity increased at a higher rate than the levy. The city's tax capacity rate decreased from 7% in 2016 down to 43% in 2020. So these numbers kind of indicate that the tax capacity has increased over time while the levy has remained relatively steady. So that caused the tax capacity rate to decrease as well. So that kind of indicates to me that the city has done a good job maintaining solid revenue flow without relying on that spike in the tax levy. So that can be commended that you're not relying too much on that increase in the tax. Moving on to the enterprise funds, we'll start with the water fund. So operating revenues for the water fund increased about 90,000 or 17.7% during 2020, and that had to do with an increase in rates along with some more customers in 2020. On the expenditure side, those increased about 10,000 or 1.7% in 2020. So with the news increasing that rate than the expenses, the result of the 2020 activity was a loss of 29,000, including depreciation. But taking out that depreciation factor, the operating income was about 200,000. So from an operational standpoint, the revenues and expenditures are able to support that water fund. And taking a look at the fund balance for the water fund, total net position increased about 154,000 from 2019 to 2020. And then the unrestricted net position actually decreased by about 297,000 as we're in operations. And that had to do with the water tower project going on. Some of that current money is being spent and put into the net investment and capital assets category. So as that continues to wrap up, you'll probably see the unrestricted net position drop a little bit, but the investment in capital assets will continue to increase. Moving on to the sewer fund, operating revenues for that one increased by about 119,000 during the year. And that had to do with increases in customers and consumption, along with a slight increase in the rates. Operating expenses increased by about 46,000 over the same period. So again, the revenue increase exceeding the expense increase. And the expense increase had to do with the result of an increase in wages along with increased contracted services relating to that fund during the year. At the end of 2020, an operating loss of about 50,000, including the depreciation again, and operating income without depreciation of about 268,000. And again, here's kind of the net position for the sewer fund, which It actually decreased by about 52,000 from 2019 to 2020, with the unrestricted net position increasing by about 28,000. So pretty consistent results compared to 2019 on the sewer fund side. And then lastly, we have the surface fund we'll take a look at. Operating revenues decreased there by about $2,500, and operating expenses decreased by about 17,000. So again, good to see the revenue decrease being less than the expense decrease. And the expenses decreased in part due to lesser salaries and benefits allocated to the fund, along with a decrease in the amount of pension expense that had to be recognized during the year. And the result of 2020 activity was an loss of 36,000 for the surface water, and operating income without depreciation of about 15,000. And net position there, again, kind of a similar story. It decreased a little bit by about 31,000 during the year, with the unrestricted portion increasing by 19,000, or about 13% as a result of current year operations. So that's all I had to touch on here today. Are there any questions or concerns you'd like addressed in relation to any of that information? I know I kind of went through it pretty quick, but if you have any, feel free to get here tonight, or else feel free to contact me either by phone or email, as I have my information listed there.
So, Mr. Dahl, this is Mayor Iverson. What I'll do is I'll kind of go around to our council members individually to see if they have any questions.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there. So let's start with Member Schilling.
I actually don't have any questions. It looks like things are holding steady and we're kind of holding that line. So I think we're doing all right and we're doing what we should be doing. So I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. Member Luker.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Member Onstead.
I do not have any questions.
Thank you. Member Yeager.
I do have one question. 48.3% of the general fund is for public safety, but is my understanding that building and zoning is also included in that figure? Could you tell me what building and zoning actually takes up?
I'd have to dig into that a little bit off the top, but I can certainly reach out with that percentage once I go back and kind of look at that particular piece.
Okay, could you actually email that to me? Because I did ask this last year and it doesn't appear I haven't got an, it got kind of lost in the mail or a drop somewhere.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. And then I have one comment. I'm hoping, can you go back to the tax capacity slide, please? Look at that big, there we go. So, and I just want to make sure I heard your statement correctly. Basically what you said is the tax capacity is going down, the revenues are going up, and did you say that works in our favor? Could you restate that for me, please? I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Sure, yeah. So the tax capacity, so the amount you're able to levy, has continued to climb kind of based on market values of property and things like that. But the actual tax levy, the amount that you're kind of bringing in from the citizens as revenue, has stayed consistent from time to time. So usually those kind of go hand in hand, but you've done a good job kind of keeping the levy at a consistent basis. So other revenue sources are kind of making up for that and keeping the general fund balance. So I just thought that was commendable that you're not increasing the tax levy unnecessarily.
Yeah. All right. I thought that's what I heard, and that's really good news. So I appreciate you stating that. And I know it's all very complicated, but that was very well stated. So I'm really happy about that. I appreciate that. So thank you very much. And then Mr. Linwood, you'll get that out to all council members when you receive that email regarding the question that Member Yeager had.
In regards to that breakdown on public safety, certainly once that's provided, I'll be happy to share that with everyone.
Awesome, that's great. Mr. Dahl, thank you so much for being with us tonight and providing good news.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, that was great news. So let's move along to number 15 on our agenda to consider, or do we need to approve this? Mr. Linwood, do we need to approve that?
Yes, Mayor, please
Okay.
accept the audit. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the 2020 City of Wyoming audit. Yeah, we need a first. Anybody want to make that first?
Member Luger, so moved.
Member Luger makes the first. Do we have a second?
Member Schilling will second.
Member Schilling makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Yeager,
Aye.
Member Onstead,
Aye.
Member Luger,
Aye.
Member Schilling,
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is an aye. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Number 15, to consider resolution 2105-41, a resolution approving an agreement for joint administration of financial assurance for Hunter Hill between the city of Wyoming and the Comfort Lake Watershed District. I'm not sure if this is Mr. Linwood or Mr. Erickson.
Mayor Iverson, I'll start on this, and we may have a few different staff members that may contribute on this item. But Mayor, members of the council, this is an agreement for a joint administration of financial assurance for the Hunter Hill development. That's the new development on Pioneer Avenue and the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. This is the same as last year, or when we had, or the previous year, and we had the same kind of agreement for the preserve at Comfort Lake. This essentially allows for that letter of credit, a joint administration between not only the city, but also through the watershed district for those improvements made as the stormwater, the streets, the curb and gutter go in there. Essentially, it's just an agreement that we have that assurance between the two entities. It goes through, the actual agreement goes through different actions in regards for identification, and if there needs to be drawn the letter of credit, obligations for competing those components in the different components of the development. Basically, as we go through this, we release that letter of credit cooperatively through the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. This is, like I said, very similar to the agreement that we had with the Preserve of Comfort Lake with the Watershed District. And this is something that we've reviewed by our city engineer, our city attorney, and that we're presenting to council tonight for approval.
Okay, we will go around for questions. Member Yeager.
Mr. Linwood just answered my question. Thank you.
All right, Member Onstead,
No questions.
Member Luger,
No questions.
Member Schilling.
I do not have any questions.
All right, and I do not either. So we are going to need a motion to approve resolution 21-05-41, a resolution approving an agreement for joint administration of financial assurance for Hunter Hill between the city of Wyoming and the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. Do we have a motion to approve?
Member Schilling, so moved.
Member Schilling makes that first. Do we have a second?
Member Onsted makes a second.
Member Onstead makes a second. Roll call, please. Member Yeager,
Aye.
Member Luger,
Aye.
Member Onstead,
Aye.
Member Schilling,
Aye.
and Mayor Iverson is an aye. It does pass. Number 16 on our agenda, resolution 21-05-42, approving the purchase of the ST200 screed box attachment in the amount of $15,205 from Lano Equipment and the acceptance of the grant from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry and the amount of $7,602.50. Mr. Almgeld.
Yep, Mayor, thank you. And city council members, for 2 years, Public Works has been looking for safer and economical ways of patching our worst streets other than manual labor, manually with a shovel. Travis Parson and Pat Parento both worked in the city of Blaine, and they showed us how they were doing there to get rid of this problem. That's where we discovered this screed box. The screed box can pave a thin or thick layer of blacktop and can be adjusted 5 inches to 6 feet for width. The skid loader is offset, so there are no tire tracks in the fresh blacktop. The only bumps are when a vehicle starts onto the new patch and exiting the path where the new black pavement ends instead of the bump, bump, bump. We were audited by the League of Minnesota Cities, and we mentioned the safety grant and our plan to purchase one. They agreed it would be a great, safe way to patch the worst streets and provided us with a recommendation. We then took it to our safety committee, and they also agreed with that we should get one. So we applied for this 50-50 grant through the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, and it was awarded to the city of Wyoming. The purchase price is $15,205, and it is available with government pricing through Lano Equipment. The grant would be $7,602.50, and the city's portion would be the same. The safety grant that we have is budgeted every other year in our CIP and for $10,000. Staff recommends approval of the ST 200 attachment in the amount of the $15,205 from Lano Equipment and the acceptance of the grant from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry in the amount of $7,602.50 to offset that total amount.
Awesome, thank you. It's always nice to get those grants, right?
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, so this is budgeted correctly. Am I correct? You said $10,000 we do have budget for?
Correct, in the CIP.
Okay, and will all the public works be trained on using this?
Yes, because it's a 4-man operation, and so everybody would have to be trained on it. The nice thing is, like the picture that was in the packet, there's a guy on the roller, a guy on the truck, a guy in the skid loader, then you have one employee that fills any potholes on the sides of these lanes as you're walking down or going down the road. And the manufacturer says it's 10 times faster than with manual labor. So
Okay, so we save employee time on that, right?
Yep.
Okay, and when is it due to be delivered, or when can it be once it's ordered?
they have 3 to 5 weeks, but that was a couple months ago. So
Okay.
Everything that's going on, I hope it's still the same.
Okay, great. I'll open it up to further questions. Member Yeager.
Oh, no questions. This is really cool. Just as the diffusers on when you do the hydrant flushing was really cool too.
Thank you.
All right, Member Onstad.
No questions. This thing looks like it'll be able to do miles of road over feet of road at a significant savings. We could do all
Right.
61 miles in the city.
67? Oh, we have a few miles already done though, don't we?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, all right. Member Luker
I have no questions.
and Member Schilling.
No questions, just more or less, well, I guess it's a question. Essentially what I see is we're always patching potholes. I think this will speed up our process and get us a little more ahead of the game than always being behind when we're doing everything manual. So I'm all for this. I think this thing is great. So.
Good.
Mr. Elmjold, if you would like your staff to practice, I'm offering up my street. So feel free to come on over and practice, bring everybody over and see how it works. So,
All right, we'll do that.
all right.
And then when they're good, they can come to a couple other spots that I know of.
You have a new road. What are you talking about? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I'm glad we got the grant, and it just again shows that Wyoming does look for those grants and to help save money. So I appreciate that. All right, so we do need a motion to approve resolution 21-05-42, approving the purchase of the ST 200 skid box attachment in the amount of $15,205 from Lano Equipment, and the acceptance of the grant from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry in the amount of $7,602.50. I'm going to make the first motion to approve that. So I highly believe in this. So do we have a second?
Member Luger, was second.
Member Luker makes that second. Roll call, please. Member Schilling.
Aye.
Member Luker.
Aye.
Member Onstad.
I
And Member Yeager.
Aye.
Mayor Iverson is an aye. All right. Last one on the agenda is number 17. The City of Wyoming updated COVID-19 business preparedness plan. Ms. Dumas, are you doing that, or Mr. Linwood?
Mayor, I'm going to start, and then Ms. Dumas will be talking about the business plan. Mayor, members of the council, we wanted to discuss tonight our new business plan and reopening. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, City Hall and other facilities were closed on March 18th of 2020, and due to that pandemic, we declared emergency, and the council has held its last in-person meeting on March 17th of 2020, including all of our boards and commissions. Over the last year, city programs and services have been modified to adhere to the state government and public health guidance, and we've continued to do that and keep the council aware of that. Recently, you have seen through MDH that there have been changes that began on May 7th, and I've itemized some of those in the memo that was given to council on. There was lifting of capacity, mask requirements for outdoor venues, occupancy limits, indoor gatherings, etc. And on May 28th, we will see even less remaining capacity and distancing restrictions. And then some other things still required for masking on indoor and outdoor large events. It was anticipated that July 1 or sooner that the masking requirement will end, but as recently on Friday, Governor Walz gave new guidance that the city is ending that mask mandate, and we want to discuss with the council tonight that about returning to those in-person meetings. We've been able to meet continually in this virtual environment due to that public health emergency, but right now that statewide emergency declaration is effective until June 13th, 2021. If that is not extended, we would not be able to meet virtually after that. It's at this point thought that that won't be extended, but we'll continue to watch that. Just some information for the council. If we do to go back to the in-person meetings, there is limited ability for elected officials now to participate in virtual meetings due to medical reasons after July 1. And then after that, it's capped to 3 times in 2021 and only for a 60-day period after that state of emergency is rescinded. Given the existed projected declarations, we could look to convene as soon as June 21st in person, and then the commissions and boards would have to follow that same schedule. Staff is recommending, though, that we begin to have in-person meetings starting June 1. This would be for our first city council meeting, and then we would also be looking to have our board and commissions follow suit. We still have a peacetime emergency that was declared on March 17th by our mayor. We'll be continuing to watch that state peacetime emergency, and once that ends, we will have a resolution for the city council to adopt or rescind our local emergency as well. I think this is something that's important as we'll be going through that. Ms. Dumas will be walking through that preparedness plan, but I think we've been able to really adjust to this and really, I think, not only continue to provide the services that are essential to our community and residents and businesses, but I think improved on some of those abilities through updates in our electronic delivery of those services and other things that the council has elected to do with some of our CARES dollars that have really provided, I think, more transparency and more opportunity to make us more accessible to our general public. With that, I will let Ms. Dumas talk a little bit about that update to that COVID-19 preparedness plan. And then if we have any questions on the topics I talked about or she talked about, we'll open those up for questions.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, the city's approach during the COVID-19 pandemic has really centered the health and wellness, both of employees and of visitors to public facilities. And that's something we're continuing to evaluate as we get new guidance from the CDC and new updates in the pandemic occur. We want to take those into account as we're designing how to best provide our services. So we have gone through previously 2 iterations of the preparedness plan as updates have occurred, and this would now be our 3rd. 3 significant updates have happened since our last revision of the preparedness plan. The first being that vaccines have become widely available to all Minnesotans over the age of 12. The city began first connecting employees with vaccine opportunities back in January of 2021. And as of today, about 55% of Chisago County residents have received at least 1 dose of a vaccine. Secondly, vaccines that have been approved in the United States for use have been shown not only to protect the individual who receives the vaccine, but also to reduce the transmission of the virus. That means that people who are fully vaccinated would not have to wear a mask or physically distance in order to prevent the spread of the virus. And finally, as Administrator Linwood stated, the state of Minnesota has lifted many of the statewide restrictions for COVID-19, including the mandatory face mask mandate. Face masks have been shown to be widely effective at reducing the transmission of the virus. If people are fully vaccinated, though, they also do not transmit the virus. Without a mask mandate, though, people who are unvaccinated remain at risk of contracting the virus if they are indoors and unmasked. In response to these new updates, there are several adjustments that the city would like to make in terms of our operations. The first being a return to public meetings on June 1st of 2021. This would be for all of our boards and commissions. Masks and social distancing would not be required during these meetings. However, they would not be prohibited. If people felt that they wanted to wear a mask or social distance, they would be able to do that. Secondly, masks would not be required within city facilities. However, we would continue to provide them as people enter the facility if they would like to use one. Third, if an employee who is vaccinated against COVID-19 has an exposure, we will not require them to quarantine as that would follow CDC guidelines. However, if an employee is not vaccinated and has an exposure to COVID-19, they will continue to be required to quarantine in accordance with the Minnesota Department of Health guidelines. No additional leave would be provided by the city for those employees. They would either have to take their paid leave bank, or if that had been exhausted, it would be an unpaid leave. Next, employees who are experiencing COVID-19 symptoms would be required to report that to their supervisor, and administration would follow up with that employee to identify appropriate steps for returning to the workplace. We would also post signs on all city facilities requesting that visitors who are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 not enter the buildings. We will continue to make updates to this document as new updates are presented. This document would not conclude along with the end of the emergency order. This would likely continue more towards the end of the year as we continue to evaluate the situation moving forward. And with that, we'll stand for questions.
All right, sorry about that. I had a hard time getting my cursor where it needed to be. Member Schilling, you have a question.
Item 3, I'm not a big fan of, and here's why, because we're talking about this at work as well. So we got to stop using the term vaccine, because it's not a vaccine. You can still get it. It's a shot. It's basically an immune booster. It's not a vaccine, in my opinion, of a definition. But we're not. We can argue that all day long. But everybody's been vaccinated down where I'm at, and if an employee's been vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccine and there's an exposure, they will not be required to quarantine. You can't, because as per HIPAA, you can't ask if they've had it or not had it. So if an employee has been exposed and has not been vaccinated, they're required per CDC guidance. I just don't like that, because in my opinion, you don't know if they've had the vaccine or not, and they don't have to tell you if they have. So an employee that's openly says they've gotten the shot, has an exposure, they're not required to be vaccinated. But an employee that doesn't tell anybody he got the shot and he's required to quarantine, but he doesn't have to tell you per HIPAA rules that it's, I don't know. I just don't like number 3. So everything else looks fantastic, but that's my concern there. So.
Okay. All right. We'll see if there's any other ones then as well. All right, Member Yeager, any questions or comments?
When we resume meetings, are we going to be distant at the dais or together again?
We will set up the dais for City Council. If a member wanted additional distance, then we would accommodate that.
So it would be back to the usual dais.
Unless council gives direction to staff that they don't want that they wanted a more socially distanced configuration like we've done a few times right when we started with the pandemic.
The other question I had would be, would I be able to have a binder and a paper packet? Because as life has gone on with the pandemic, it is harder to see the packet on my computer screen, and I have a much bigger screen than an iPad. I mean, and like I said, it's harder to see. And certain things like tables and some maps are almost impossible. And I find as I age, it's easier
Sure.
to look at paper.
Sure. I think that's probably a council discussion in regards to that, only saying that when we adopted the policy for the devices for the council, one of the components of that policy and for that was that there would be a reduction in cost regards for printing expense and paper expense and staff time in regards to assembling of those packets. If the council would want to discuss if there were, whether it's packets, whether it's certain items, if there is something that they wanted to look to discuss this further, that would be, I guess, up to the council as far as that. We don't have, other than that policy, really identifying the reduction in those expenses and costs with that utilization of the new software we have online and then those iPads. Like I said, that's more of a council discussion that we could have certainly right now.
You know, you do realize that once you got the new agenda management software, the maintenance costs for the software eats up any savings in paper packets.
I don't necessarily agree with that, council member, because they're also factoring in the labor time that it takes staff to assemble that packet, along with the cost of the paper, the cost of the copier, the toner, everything else. And I think that Assistant City Administrator Dumas demonstrated that cost analysis, and the council reviewed that when we went to that new software and those iPads. So I don't know if we want to go revisit that right now, but I guess based on that information, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, our cost evaluation for the paperless packets was used for the device management, not for the agenda management software.
Well, even so, when I ran numbers, that's the numbers I got. You may not agree, but that's okay.
And can I ask this question? So I know the Apple iPads, you can zoom in and zoom out and make bigger, make smaller and all that kind of stuff. So if member Yeager might need a little tutorial on that, would somebody be available? Ms. Dumas, would you be able to kind of show her how to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mayor Iverson, the problem isn't, I have a laptop that I can zoom in and out of too. The problem is, as I have aged, it's a lot harder to see the little screen on the iPad, and it's getting harder to see the bigger screen on my laptop. If you insist that I bring my laptop to every meeting and, you know, squint and have trouble, that's your prerogative.
It's not all up to me, it's up to the rest of the council as well. How big are those screens? Ms. Dumas, I can't remember, were they 12 inches or 10? I mean,
I believe they're 13.5 inches.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's just see if there's any other discussion on that. If we want, or are we just leaving the way it is? So Member Lugar, your thoughts?
On whether or not we're going to paper or continuing digital?
Yep.
I mean, personally, I'm comfortable with the digital. I feel like we've had a lot of time to acclimate and kind of make any accommodations that we need for that. I certainly think that making accommodations is important for all of us so that we can genuinely participate. But I don't know that, I mean, I think we can do that and still continue with iPads. I mean, we all voted on it, right?
Yep. Okay, thank you. Member Schilling?
I'm kind of goofy in this aspect. I still print the packet and I still view it on my computer because I like making notes basically on my notes and then I put them on the computer, and I know I can do it right on real time, but I'm just kind of weird. So I'm fine with leaving it digital. And even if we went, I really don't want the paper because I got a stack behind me that's from 2 years that's, you know, this tall, and it's hard to get through, and it's easier the way I've been doing it on here now. I save every meeting via the date of the meeting, and all of my highlights when I'm done with the meeting go in there and I can find them so fast. I like the digital, but I still like paper, but but yes, stay digital, please. It's less paper for me.
Yeah, I know I custom my print, so my pages, so there's certain pages I print out and other ones, you know, so I can have it. So, all right, Member Onstad, I'm looking for you. Why am I not? Oh, there you are on the screen. So sorry. Any comments or questions?
I like it being on digital. However, I understand completely that, as my site goes, I may want a printed version too, but I'm willing to print it myself if I need it printed. The only cost to me then would be the paper. And, if we can recover that cost, I don't think it's that terribly much, but I think we need to accommodate everyone in the form that best accommodates them. But I think that we need to have a print or the digital format is printable if necessary, but I don't want to inconvenience anyone either.
Linda, can you print out the pages you need? Are you saying you need all the pages?
This morning I found out I cannot print out certain tables. I cannot print out certain maps. It does not work on my printer.
Okay. All right. Well, right now we're staying digital, and I guess maybe we can work with Kelly and Rob on how we can take care of the ones.
We can look at trying to find I think something in regards to an accommodation there where we can kind of look at this and figure out something that works.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. I forgot where we're at. Member Onstead, questions about
No
preparedness?
question.
Okay.
Back to the other topic.
Yes. Sorry.
No, nothing that I could see off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Member Luker, I don't think I asked you that question either.
I don't have any questions. I'm really excited to return to in-person meetings though.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. I hope I got everybody. I'm thinking I did. So do we need to vote on this or we're all good? That was just an update, right?
Correct.
It's an update
Okay.
informational.
Okay. And then we'll look into Member Schilling's questions on number 3, correct?
The reason I bring it up, and I kind of forgot about it, but I'm looking through my stuff here. So I know firsthand 3 people that have been fully vaccinated have gotten COVID again. That's why I don't agree with this. So I'm hoping this is something they modify, because I've seen it time and time again, because a lot of people do talk about it. But I have 3 staffers in my building that have been fully vaccinated and still got COVID.
Mhm.
That's my concern with it. I'm looking at it from just a logistical standpoint. They say they've been vaccinated, but yet they got it again.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, it's being unfair, because if someone's been exposed and they don't have symptoms, but they're still required, but if you got the vaccination or not, but they can still get it. So that was my concern with that. I'm not, I just hope they modify that a little bit. It just seems unfair to me. So.
All right. Thank you. And we don't need to vote on that. So we are going to go to council reports. And I'm going to start with Member Onstead, please.
I attended the Planning Commission last week and the workshop that was held at 5:30 this evening. And I'd like to thank everybody that is viewing the meeting tonight.
All right. Thank you. Member Luger.
I attended the rescheduled Park Advisory Commission meeting on the 3rd. Most of the items that were discussed at the meeting came through in one way or another on tonight's agenda. But the Park Advisory Commission also discussed some ideas for Arbor Day in the fall, as well as continue the ongoing conversation of the Resilient Communities Project. And I'd like to welcome our newest Park Advisory Commission member, Jessica Bergen, to the Park Advisory Commission.
Great. Thank you. Member Schilling.
Okay, I'm going to do my best on this. Okay, I attended the EDA meeting on 5/10, the EDA special meeting yesterday. The Sewer Commission yesterday as well, and then the council work session earlier tonight. And just a quick update, and if I miss anything, Linda, could you please fill in? But everything is running at or below the maximums that they're allowed to have, so everything is looking really good. Project Corridor Lift Station Phase 1 project was budgeted for $56,700. It came in at an actual of $30,683.64. So That came in at $26,016.36 under the budget. It looks like they're going to be moving forward with phase 2 project for the lift station. Lametti Construction attached their schedule. I didn't want to go into that for far of a detail, but it looks like they're planning on starting that process in mid to late August. And then the phase 3 wastewater treatment facility improvements, facility plan phase 3 is in the design process right now. So they're working on that currently. And I think that covers the sewer commission update. And if I missed anything, I was hoping Linda would cover that up on me. So,
All right.
and thank everybody for watching.
Thank you. Member Yeager.
I attended the budget work session and the sewer commission and like to thank everybody for watching.
All right, thank you. I attended the Park Advisory Commission, the Economic Development Authority meeting, the Planning Commission, the Sewer Commission, the EDA special meeting, and our work session. And I will refer to Chief Poppy here in a second, but I was at the bike rodeo and they did make me do the obstacle course and I almost failed. So we're just putting that out there. So it was a busy couple of weeks, and I'll finish up with a couple announcements when we're done with Chief Poppy and then Mr. Erickson giving an update on the road. So Chief Poppy, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we did have the bike rodeo this past weekend. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, but from what my staff said is we had a great turnout. We had about 80 kids that came through, did our normal bike inspections and obstacle course and helmet giveaway. Just really a really positive community event. So we're excited that that is back and that we had a great turnout. Weather was fantastic for it. And this week we are now starting the planning component for National Night Out. And my goal is to outdo any other year in the past as we bid to bring this event back to Wyoming in its entirety, and hopefully the community will come and enjoy it. But expect probably a better National Night Out than we've ever seen. We're going to put a little bit more into this one to really draw people back out of the neighborhoods and engage them civically. So my hats off to my staff because they really did own this past weekend. So I appreciate the effort and the time and everybody's participation, including the community.
And there's one other announcement about the safest city. Do you want to just give a little shout out for that? Because I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so every year they do evaluation, and the insurance, National Insurance Trust does an evaluation of cities across the nations and ranks your city relative to, you know, how it falls for safeness. What they look at is the crime stats, mostly the part 1, part 2 crime stats, and they do it on a comparable basis of number of incidents per 1,000. So it's an apple to apple comparison with all the other communities around the state, actually nationally, but they report from state to state. And like a number of years in the past, we are in that top 15 in the state of Minnesota of one of the safest communities in Minnesota to live. And we'll continue to work on improving that from a public safety perspective and a community as a whole. But it's really exciting to see that, you know, from year to year, we're always in that top tier cities of safest communities to live in. So hats off to our community, our residents, and our public safety, and the support of the city council that really drives that initiative and keeps us a wonderful place to live.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. That came across my desk. So congratulations on that. So thank you very much. And Mr. Erickson is going to talk about the roads and just give us an update for residents.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I've just shared my screen and I just wanted to quick highlight some things. We all have experienced the traffic related to the detours that are ongoing now with the state project on 61, as well as our own project that is on the east-west portion of 61 and East Viking. And I'm happy to announce that this first phase that really extends from just east of 61 and where my cursor is showing, west to just past Faxton has now been paved as of today. I did not quite yet get an answer as to when it's going to be striped, but they were looking at late today, this evening, tomorrow timeline, and trying to get that section back open so that we have free-flowing traffic north-south on 61. So that is very close to being opened, and so we're very pleased with that. The contractor is trending quite a bit ahead of schedule, and we know that they've requested extension of working hours. We expect that to take place here. They have the next segment that really extends from Faxton west of Fallbrook and just around the corner on Fallbrook. And so that portion is actually very shallow sanitary sewer. It gets deeper as it goes this direction. And so we expect that's going to go pretty quickly as well. And so we're really hopeful to get this section back up and operational here very soon. And so we don't have the exact schedule on that. I know we have a little bit of rain in the forecast, so I'm interested to see how that takes shape. But we are looking at reclaiming this section of roadway, meaning grinding up the asphalt that's going to be in the way of that project, as well as this section. They're going to move on to phase 3 and reclaim that as well. They have a short amount of work here with their sanitary sewer crew. They'll be working on road repairs following, but they're going to jump right back immediately with that sanitary sewer crew and work on replacing this section of sanitary sewer. They are not going to remove the asphalt in this, at the intersection of Fenwick. They're not going to replace that sanitary sewer at this time. Or they're not going to remove the asphalt at this time. They want to make sure that we have continuous flow of traffic through there. And so that won't be removed until they actually make that connection at that location. So just wanted to provide an update. Things should get better here with traffic on the north-south being open, and then in the near term, a few weeks. Again, our deadline for this section here was June 19th. They're going to definitely beat that, and so we're happy that they're making great progress. Anybody
That's
have any
awesome.
questions?
That's a great. Council member, if you have any questions, just go ahead and unmute and ask your question if you have any. Looks like they're all pretty quiet. I'm excited. And that next phase is when the stoplight will go in on Fallbrook.
So that actually is a part of the MnDOT project and not part of our project. And so their contractors are waiting for our crews. They will be starting on that. And that is actually tied to that Highway 61 project that MnDOT is leading. And so that's not part of our contract, but they will be working on that as soon as our crew is out of the way.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for that report. It's good to see that project or process going along. So happy to see that.
Great.
All right. I think that's it. I just want to remind everybody that's watching that on June 5th on Galen Drive, and I'll be able to get the address for that again at our next meeting from 11 to 4. We have some residents that are putting on a thank you for public safety. So it's more of an open house, and we'll make sure that we have more information on that. And I'll make sure I get the exact address at our next council meeting. So with that, I appreciate everybody being on Zoom and seeing everybody, and we'll see each other tomorrow. We'll see each other tomorrow. So, all right, take care. Bye-bye. Oh, we need a motion to adjourn. Sorry, I should probably adjourn,
So
right?
moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Everybody in favor, just shake your head yes. All right, we are adjourned at 8:10. Thank you.
Good night.